Good afternoon. This is Monika Rose with Manzanita Writers Press, and I'd love to welcome you to our new program. And what we are doing is videotaping our elders, and it's a Gold Country oral history project. And our sponsor, a wonderful grantor, is Calaveras Community Foundation that made this all possible. We have previously had series of these interviews, so you can find them on our YouTube channel. So look for Manzanita Writers Press on the YouTube channel, and also CCTV, Calaveras Community Television, will also be hosting us. So thank you to all of our sponsors. And we are here today with Lois Conklin and Paul Quent, both of San Andreas, longtime residents. And we're going to be talking about life, living up in our rural area and what it's like. They have stories to tell. And that's the whole idea, is capture these stories to tell before we're all going into the ether. So welcome, Lois, and welcome, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. And I know you two have a history and know each other. You've known each other a while. Let's kind of talk about that.
Well, Kathy, his wife, and I volunteered at the library more than 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's through Kathy. Then I met Paul, and then he found out that I lived on Murray Creek, near the right behind the government center, and that it was fun to gold pan and just hang out in the creek. And so he and a friend and some other folks would come on a regular basis. And we can talk about it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. When I first met her, I knew she was on the creek. And I was an avid gold panner for quite a few years. I panned on a number of different rivers. I didn't do the heavy stuff. I just like panning and sluicing, something light. So, and the creek is just the right size to use a sluice box and a pan. So I enjoy it. I don't enjoy the idea of getting a lot of money from it. It's something I've never cherished. I like to hunt. I enjoy hunting for things. So I would go and scout out the river and find different places. I remember one time my daughter lives back east. She came to visit, and I wanted to show her gold panning. She was a teacher. We set up a camera, and we actually filmed us gold panning on Murray Creek, so she could take it back east and show it to her kids in class. And one of the things that happened was that I said, "Oh, this looks like a nice little spot." So we cleaned it out, and she just went bluey because she started picking out little pieces of gold out of this hole that we had found, and it just blew her mind that you could still find little pockets of gold in Murray Creek every once in a while. And I did that for, God, must 10 or 15 years until my back issues. It's hard work as a gold panner. Anybody, the gold pan can ask you the same thing. It's tough on the hands and the back, but I enjoyed it tremendously, and she's been such a good friend over all the years.
Well, at over $3,000 an ounce, you might want to start it up again.
I did. I was a metal detector too, and I just last year I sold all the stuff I had to a store in Jackson for over $2,000 some dollars. And that's not my gold. That's just
equipment.
Yeah, that's just finding it with my metal detector.
Oh,
Yeah. So, yeah, because I did both. I was a metal detector because I like to hunt.
yeah.
So, and then I used it for that. So I just sold the stuff that I metal detected. My gold flakes and stuff are still sitting at home. But you have the earrings?
The necklace. You made
yeah.
a necklace with a little piece
Gold
of
from
gold
her
with a
creek, yeah.
little pendant that they gifted me for letting them come.
Yeah.
Had another friend from Berkeley that just loved to come, and till he kind of aged out as well.
Yeah, you get to the point.
Lots of work, because they didn't just put the thing in the water and swish it around. They were digging and going down sloughs and behind a rock and all this kind of stuff. So it was more than just that little gold panning thing.
The physical labor involved, as I
What
Oh.
recall.
brought you to Calaveras County?
My husband found the property that I still am on in 1973, 74, in one of the old, farmers something catalogs that they used to do real estate. They were little booklets, and he would just, peruse those. He had them on his table and one day he saw this. He says, "Oh, we've got to go look at this property." We seldom went and looked at anything, but this one he says we've got to look at. And so we came out from the fire stations, Cal Fire, turned right there on Murray Creek Road, and all that was dirt. It was all dirt road from I don't know if Pope Street. I think it might have been paved at that point, but and came out 2 miles, and don't think we said anything to each other. We just were going and looking and wondering where we were going until we came to the property and turned and looked. And then here's this meandering creek going down, and then a couple little buildings on the property. And we just looked at each other. I wonder if we can figure out how to buy this. Just before we had seen anything else, but it was just so unusual.
Did you notice the natural springs that were on that area at that time, or did you discover
No,
them
but
later?
just the fact that the creek was flowing. I think this was maybe February, which it would have been because it was winter, but we found out that this was a year-round creek, and I had a friend there in Manteca. She says, at that elevation, there's no year-round creeks. They all go dry in the summertime. And that area, then we found later, an old man came and witched the hillside and found 7 springs in this one turn corner. And so that was, how we knew that it was a live creek, but it doesn't. It goes dry above me, up. And like this year, with a low amount of rain, we'll have the neighbors' creek will all go dry. But on my corner, it doesn't.
There's always water there.
There's always water there. So, and even in August, the water is so cold. It's just really cold.
Uh-huh.
So,
And did your husband build the dam that was there? Was that
no, the man that we bought the property from had built the dam, and then he had made a pond in just down the way in a big space, and the dam was built so that he could divert water from the creek through pipes down here to make a pond. And
You can't do that much anymore. You have to have it engineered.
yeah, and
People did that quite a bit.
yeah, I don't know if, well, I did have a permit. I did
Did
have
you?
I let it go finally, but because we weren't doing any changing. I don't know, maybe I should still have it, but because some other people, up the creek, did some changing, and they really weren't supposed to without going through proper channels.
So how did you get into music after that?
Oh, well, that goes way back.
Yeah, but in Calaveras County,
In
you just
Calaveras
joined
County,
the church and started
um,
playing for them?
yeah, we retired up here in '89. We came back up here. So, because we bought in '74.
Was your house on the property?
Yes, it was already out there. It was
Okay.
actually in an old cabin-like house, which is still there too, and is utilized. But let's say that unless my train is on.
That's all right.
Your music, we were
Oh,
trying to get on to how you got it.
I've played the piano since I was a child, and then around the '90s, and well, once we retired, we learned about some festivals And I had a little auto harp that I had never used very much. And a friend in a music group, she said they have auto harp festivals. And so we looked into it, called. We'd never been to a music festival, you know, there for a weekend, 3 days. And we drove clear up to Oregon and we went to this I phoned the fella and asked about it. And I said, well, are there other people besides auto harps, you know, guitars and fiddles? Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So you're all welcome. And so, and it was a camp out place. So we had to take our gear and so that's how we started. So we went to a number of those over the years. And that's where I learned more about the auto harp and began to use it along with the piano. And of course, many times when
Did your husband also accompany you?
he was a fiddler.
A fiddler.
He was a fiddler. So
Did he help you fiddle around Calaveras?
yeah, and we fiddled around for Calaveras.
Okay. Right. Did you ever like the fair, or is just always just small venues somewhere in California?
We joined a group called the Crazy Cats, and one lady wore a colander on her head with flowers coming out of it, and had rhythm instruments. And we had an old fella named Bill McKnight who played the banjo, and then there was an old fiddler, and several what they call gut buckets that are just made out of a big base tub.
Yeah.
And we played with them for a while, and I think that we went to the convalescent hospital, and then they sort of all fell by the wayside. And so then, you know, my husband and I were left, you know, just thinking what to do. And we thought, well, I think we still went with Bill McKnight, who was a local.
He was in our writers group.
Yeah,
Very early.
yeah, that's right. You told me that.
Mhm.
And his daughter still lives in the area. And so we went with him, and then he dropped out of going because his eyesight was getting so poor. And so my husband and I stayed on at the convalescent and actually played at the small one, which was part of Avalon today. But then they closed down, and then we just spent. So we did that for a number of years. And then when he passed away, I didn't know if I could do it by myself, but I ran into the activity director and I said, well, I guess I could come and try. And of course, they have a built-in piano in the room as well as the auto harp. And so, but I had different people that came with me, a guitar guy, and at one point, a trumpet player from Valley Springs, and we got some really good of that old time, you know, jazz type of music, and because he was really quite good. He played for all the veterans things down in Valley Springs. Very.
What kind of music did you play?
We play folk music, sing along, and old type pops like 5'2", you know, or the Atchison, Topeka, and the Santa Fe, that kind of music. That's what I still play. So, and I have lots of that kind of music available. And when I go in, I just play piano for half an hour and encourage them to sing along. And then I use my auto harp and go to the table, and then we sing this folk songs.
Did you bring your auto harp?
Not today. I didn't know I was
we
supposed
could
to.
have sampled that. We'll do that another time and add that in.
Well, a lot of people don't know what it is. I heard yesterday somebody says I had my scratch box out and I was playing it, and I thought I've never ever heard it called a scratch box. And somebody else, this is a Facebook thing, and somebody else in scratch box. And I mean that's kind of a good description of it. It does.
Well, you play it against your chest and you play it upright. Where I remember in the 5th grade, I would play the auto harp and you have the little, knobs you press down and it makes the chords, and I would just strum the chords.
They were made that way. They were tabletop for many years, and teachers had them. sometimes maybe just one in the classroom. I remember meeting a lady says, I hate that instrument. I had to tune 30 of them.
It was the go-to instrument for
Yeah,
teachers.
yeah. But I grew up in Los Angeles. I never ever saw an on a harp until well, till I bought one, and I wished I knew that story because I don't know unless I just said I need something that's portable, that's not a piano to play with kids. I was in a Girl Scout volunteer and things like that, Sunday school, and so
So,
anyhow, that's
so what was it like in Murray Creek in the old days? You know, back in the 80s, and I say the old days, and it seems like just yesterday to me, but
well. There's several of the neighbors had been there that bought in the 70s and 80s, and so there was kind of a community, and I think the one people in the back had 80 acres. Most of them were 20 and 30 acre parcels because it's real hilly, and but we got together with those neighbors. At one time we had a women's circle that met every week at an area along the creek that was a big meadow where they had built a labyrinth path. The neighbors had gone to Stonehenge and to other sites in the British Isles and saw a labyrinth for the first time. And thought, we have room for that. So a bunch of the neighbors got together, and it's filled with rock, and you can walk around. And there's still a young man out of that family that weed eats it every year. It's very rustic. It's not as polished as some places, but that was a meeting place. And actually, when the older couple, when they passed away, these services were right there, and their ashes were spread around the labyrinth. So it was.
it's a beautiful thing.
But those neighbors were very much in tune with nature, and the Miwok Indians were along there. There's grinding rocks from along the creek in different places, and the one lady, she just was very much in tune with what happens in the universe, and could feel even the presence of these ancestors. Because then also there's a flume road way up high on the creek, the Chinese people had during the gold rush. So it goes back. There was an old stagecoach road, apparently went to Mountain Ranch, but that doesn't. It goes back a long ways, and there's some cabins back way in the back of the road.
So that's not Murray Creek Road that goes all the way to Mountain Ranch. That's the one.
Well, now they've changed the name, and the old Lookout Road is what they call Murray Creek. But what I think of Murray Creek is out back, out toward where this Elliott family was, and but that road, there may be a trail, but it comes out up near the Josie Ranch and Mountain Ranch. So, but you can't get through that way.
Can't get through.
But apparently, somewhere along the line, there was a stagecoach and I tried to go to the historical archives, but we didn't have much luck with that. I should try it again.
Yeah, maybe now. Maybe now with a little bit more information.
But you talk about the Chinese on Murray Creek. It's interesting because I've gold pan on Murray Creek, and one time I found a Chinese coin, and it was stuck in a crevice. And I was told that a lot of Chinese would take coins and put them into the river as a thank you for the gold that they had taken out.
Well, that's a nice tradition.
Oh, I never heard that story. Thank you.
I read it somewhere. It was told that that's what some of them had done, and I actually found a small Chinese coin.
Well, the Flume Road is way up high, side of a mountain. I have a brother-in-law that that used to come out and camp and stay for several weeks, but in his tent down below, but he would go up to this area where the Flume Trail was, and he made himself a trail way up
Yeah,
there.
you told me, yeah.
And
Hmm.
I don't know how much of it you can go now, but it's
Nature's reclaiming much of this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, the pond is pretty much gone.
yeah.
No.
I noticed in the it's hidden back in there because in the wintertime the water table comes up. In the summer it goes down, and that's why they had at one time had a flow to it. But
You had a little boat in the pond too. if I
yeah,
remember right.
well, yeah, kids from the youth group at the church would come and swim in there. I used to invite the kids out. We had a couple weddings there. It's been a wonderful place to live, and this county itself. Almost every morning I just wake up and I'm so thankful this is where I am. I grew up in the city, and so I mean I just get to spend my latter days here in country and where people are friendly and talk to you. It's just like a friend yesterday. He says he went to Sanders Market. I talked to a lady I never met before. We talked for an hour, and you do that.
Yeah.
Not everywhere is like that.
And Senders is our go-to market up here.
Yeah.
I mean, railroad, and people shop from a large radius. And of course, the hardware. And you were involved in a hardware store.
Yeah, I worked at Calaveras Lumber for the Fullaways for 10 years.
Mhm.
Yeah. I liked it. I was a furniture repairman for 30 years, and I'd always be in hardware stores. And I'm going, God, I'd love to work here, but you can't make money as a salesperson. So when I retired up here, I got a job at a hardware store.
Oh,
So
my
I
dream
enjoyed
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because you're around the wood and
Yeah,
you can
yeah, I
advise
do
people.
wood
Well,
projects and stuff
Paul
too.
makes beautiful furniture.
No, I don't know. I just do what I enjoy.
Well,
Yeah.
what kind of furniture?
Well, let's see. I've made our sofa, our entertainment centers, our bed set, our table, our computer stuff. Just all kinds of little things.
Pretty much the whole living room.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much the whole living room, except for the recliners.
But you're retired now. You don't do custom work or.
No,
I couldn't call you up and say, Paul, I
no.
would love to have like a little settee.
I'm not even going to give you my number.
Come on. Oh, come on.
But I grew up back east, and this town, I grew up in the country, so I loved lakes and streams, and I grew up in that. And retiring after living in the L.A. and the Bay Area for so long, it was nice to retire to a place that I feel is like it's home. It's just like home living here.
I grew up in Los Angeles and then Long Beach, and when my husband and I got together, we said we don't want to raise our kids in the concrete jungle. It just the traffic and the smog, and even though we live not too far from the beach, but it was just teeming with people,
Mhm.
and we wanted something better for the kids. So raising the kids up in this area has just been wonderful, and they have good memories.
And so how do you find Calaveras County and Mountain Ranch?
Well, he got transferred. That was the embargo time, when it was just like 1980, 1981, 79 to 82. And, gas was up, prices were really high and lines around the block, to get gas. Remember that?
Yeah.
And then we had bought a piece of property, up in Kings Canyon. And we were going to build our home, and we were so green. We didn't know anything. We were going to have cattle. We're going to do all this, right? And so we go the right way, get the plans, get an architect to draw it up, which we never use those plans as a fancy house, right? And then we realized we tried to get a construction loan. And I kid you not, it was 28% interest for a construction loan.
Gee.
28%. There was no way a young couple could do that. And then my husband lost his job at the time. And then, so he transferred up here. And actually the Stockton area And we said, we're going to find a spot. So we originally went to Valley Springs, Rancho Calaveras, had a little house there. And then he said, it's too crowded. Too many people again.
Yeah,
Right. So then we moved up to Mountain Ranch, which is a lot more remote.
it started from scratch.
Started from scratch, built our own house.
Camped out.
Didn't know what we're doing.
You kind of camped out.
Oh,
and you
trailer
yeah,
life.
Yeah.
The kids still talk about the trailer life. So what was you have your family came up with you, or just you and your husband? And
No, just the two of us
Just
came
two of
here. Diana actually came back, my younger daughter, and in her last year and a half, she went to Calaveras High School. And we came from Manteca at that point because Don was at Sharp Army Depot there in Stockton. He was on his head of the job there. And, and so Diana came up, and so she graduated in high school. And I always remember 1976. I remember hers better than mine. and, um, and then went to Delta College from here, and then after that went on to Humboldt and such, and met people, and her life settled down. But so she still loves coming up here. And,
so her roots are still here.
yeah, even though the other daughter also moved here because her husband moved here to become the editor of the Calaveras Enterprise, Dana Nichols, and so then they became friends in Stockton, but then she came up, and then they built a home here. And he brought his parents here because they needed a lake. And the only lake is M24.
So they're up in Mountain Ranch.
They were, yeah, but they were canoers, so they needed a lake to put their canoes in. And I mean, they were avid canoers. I mean, you didn't go in their canoe without learning how to do it. You know, you just didn't say, I want to ride in your canoe. No, you got a lesson,
Okay.
but they would take them to some of the other lakes and would have summer campouts, and they were really they had come here from Arizona, which I guess there was a lake there, because then they brought, I think maybe my older daughter, Ruthie and Dana, still might have a couple of their canoes in their basement. I'm not sure.
Time to drag them out and go up to Lake.
You're right. But anyway, that's part of the story of coming to.
What's your family? Did they all?
No, just Kathy and I retired here. It was just too far away for her family grew up in the Bay Area. My family is, well, pretty much, I'm the last one in my family. So, besides my daughter who lives back east. So, but we were in and out of Calaveras County over the years, going to festivals in Sonora and Tahoe. And we knew some friends who had lived here, and we came and stayed with them, and we thought, this is it. You know, we owned land in Placerville, thinking we'd build there. And then we liked this a lot better. So we sold that and decided to move to Calaveras County and have a house built here, and just never regretted it.
Did you build your house?
No, we had it. It was a manufactured home we had brought in and put on a lot here.
Well, your lovely wife is here.
Yeah.
We ought to have her join us. Coming into the conversation is Kathy Martinez, the lovely wife of Paul Quent, and she's got a history here as well. Some stories to tell about living here and coming up. And
Yeah.
Did you meet Paul up here, or did you
No, I met
know him
Paul
before?
in Coyote Hills Regional Park in Fremont.
Oh,
He and his brother came walking in, and his brother asked where the bathroom was, and I said, because I was at A, I said, it's right over there. So brother went to the bathroom, and Paul and I started talking, and before he left, he asked if he wanted. There was a bike track around Coyote Hills, and I've always wanted to get on, to do it. I just never had time. And he mentioned that too, and I said, "Oh, I've always wanted to do that." And he goes, "Oh, let's do it together." And I went, oh, okay. So we did it, and then we,
So
so
that-
the following, well, actually, the following week, I asked him to, he wanted to attend one of the meetings they have on Sunday, the village meetings. We talked in the interpreter talks about the
Yeah.
Ohlone Indians and everything.
Edwards in his class.
No, it wasn't, was it?
Yes, it was. Yeah,
Oh,
it was
oh,
Edwards in his
Well,
class.
then you saw me in my prime. And I would just I was in charge of this Sunday program. And so I asked Paul to go there, and I invited my ex-husband. Because I said, I don't want to get involved. I'm another guy. So I wanted him to check him out to see if it was okay.
Oh, that's
And he
an
agreed.
interesting
He
twist.
thought Paul was
I had met all
fabulous.
our ex-boyfriends. A
Yeah.
couple of them came to the wedding too.
Mhm.
So what, it started with a bike ride and a journey that kept on going.
Yeah,
And
really.
for 40 years.
That's right.
Wow.
In April.
Wow,
40 years.
that's wonderful.
40, well, I've known you for 40, no more than
40 years. Yeah, we've known each other for 42 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, get it right.
the 21st will be our wedding anniversary, April 21st.
April 21st.
But when we moved here, Jana rather, was living
Jack
with
and Jana.
Jack and Jan
Uh-huh.
Norton up here on Gold Road
Court.
Gold Court. And Paul really liked the area, and I thought it was fine. It was, So, we decided to look around, and the realtor showed us this little area that we're building homes on, and we thought that was great because it was going to be a
55 and older
yeah,
community.
an older residential area for seniors.
Mhm.
And so we thought, yay, because I don't want to run over a kid with my car while I'm 80 years old. So it was one of those things that it felt really good. And generally, we're very happy that we did it. But we had,
There's a lot of problems.
Really?
yes,
But in the building process?
No, it had to do with,
the homeowners.
Yes.
yeah,
Oh,
the
homeowners association.
association and the guy buying in and just, stealing money. And
It was,
yeah, a
It
lot
was really
of litigation. It's
Yeah.
still, it's still
Still going.
It's still
it's still
going on.
going on for 20 years.
Oh.
Yeah.
You would think, you move up, have a simple life, you're getting away from the
Yes.
complexity of the
Mhm.
city. And sometimes it's not as simple as we think. I think there's some
it's been,
complex things happening up
it's
here.
been downright awful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't regret moving here though.
Oh, I kept saying, we gotta get out of here. And he goes, no, I put too much here. And he did. He did so much moving dirt and rock. There's a lot of rocks here.
Well,
That's a whole nother story
There's-
right there.
There's
Rock.
sweat and tears.
Yeah, there's a lot of it
Yes.
in the land,
No blood.
so to speak.
Just sweat and tears.
Well, cut once in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, haven't lost a finger or anything. But
No.
your garden area is wonderful, and then they live right at the edge of this so-called subdivision, I guess.
Yeah.
And then they're just like me. They've got green grass and hills and nobody next to them.
I have a view.
You have a
Yeah.
view. Yes, you do.
See, that's where there was supposed to be a phase 2 in that. And that's when the economy threw it all down the tank. So the phase 2 never materialized. If it had, we would add a house about 20 feet from this.
Yeah.
On that, we would have never had that view. So there's good and bad related to this whole thing.
And right now it's pretty good.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
supposed to be like 80 homes
Yeah.
in this one. Now there's only 15, and we have a fabulous view out of our window, fabulous view out of our back window and our side window.
So are you off of Goldstrike?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that little subdivision. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, that's a nice little area.
Yeah, we live up on a hill.
Mhm.
That was, the lot wasn't the one they were gonna give us either.
No.
They gave us one, they said, this is your lot here, and went and measured it, and I said, no, it's not big enough, I don't want that. So he wound up, adding an extra lot and giving it
Well, that worked
the
out.
end one, yeah, so.
That worked
A lot of things worked out really nice, it's like we were meant to be in Calaveras County.
Yeah.
and to meet you guys and Lois.
Oh, the library, working with Lois in the library was a really good
We had such a good time.
introduction to.
We just had,
Calaveras.
there was 3 of us for, I don't know, 6 or 8 years or
Mhm.
more
Yeah.
that were like the musketeers, I guess. We,
Yeah.
So what did you do with the library?
well, besides story time,
Mhm.
we actually then had programs, after school programs for children from the schools. Small groups, because the library is a little bit out of the, it's not walking distance for any of the children, but Kathy then led a lot of crafts where we made dolls out of corn husks
Yeah.
and things like that, and learned how to use make the beads out of pine nuts. Pine nuts. There's a little hole in a pine nut, and you take a little teeny piece of wire and push out the meal. If you don't, you have little guys living in those.
Yeah.
Because you told the story of the lady that had her necklace and she was getting little bugs out of it. It's because they hadn't removed that. But once you push it out, you've got an automatic hole. I mean,
You have to drill it. It's a nut, so you have to drill the holes, and then you push out the meat. And it's edible, but
Mhm.
It's a bull pine, it's called.
Yeah,
You have to
bull
know that Kathy is California Indian,
yeah. But my tribe is Pitt River,
yeah, which is
northern
northern.
California, north of Lassen, east of Shasta,
So she's,
and this is, you know, totally different band and tribe and ways. So it's
The ways are different.
in many ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you live closer to the western side of the ocean, or
Oh,
were you in
no,
north
Mount
of Shasta,
Shasta.
east
oh
of
like
Lassen?
oh east of
So,
Lassen? Oh,
Um,
different habitat.
yeah, so along the Pitt River. And northeastern California, so I was not an oceanic tribe at all. So, but our salmon was our main source of protein. And one of the things I like to think that our salmon, by the time they came up to Bernie, New Beaver, they were strong, they were brave, they were courageous, they beat them all. The odds, they were lucky, they may have lost an eye and maybe a fin, but they made it. And they were able to have eggs and babies, provide for good, strong, not like the ones that get caught up there by the mouth of the ocean.
Weak ones.
We was,
And then you ate of those strong fish, so made you
Yeah.
strong too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Not that I'm superstitious or anything, but I believe in that. What you eat, you are what you eat,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
They
but
say-
getting back to playing the auto harp, which I took up because of her, and it was so much fun. And my hand I had polio when I was a child, and my hands got weak, and I would hold it wrong. You're supposed to put your head on this side.
We adapted the auto to and changed the chords so that she would have it on the opposite. So, and I took her to a conference and everybody said, "You got it on the wrong show." No, I don't. This is
Is it made for like right or left-handed people? Is that the deal or what? It's just the way it's shaped.
it's pretty, yeah. But see, it was built to be played in your lap, so it was
Yeah.
made for anybody. But then when they start playing it upright, and some left-handed people just play it just the opposite. One guy used to turn his upside down. I mean, and people just adapt when, especially lefty is more, they're used to adapting because there are a lot of things don't work, because most of us are working with it right. But then I was going to say, Kathy then has made this jewelry, Native American style jewelry, for years and years.
Beautiful. It's what, abalone or?
Yeah,
Oh, that's beautiful.
And
And the matching earrings.
yeah, I made my earrings too.
well, she has pieces in the British Museum in London.
Wow.
And also she sells at powwows like Stanford, and she's done a few
But
shows
last
already. She's also a storyteller. Let's not forget that. She does.
She's president of the Mother Lode Storytellers.
I started the guild here in San Andreas, but it was founded in Tuolumne by B.Z. Smith and I'm a calling nun. and it was in Tuolumne for 10, 12 years. And Beezy, said, I've had enough, I want to relax. And then Colleen had the gall to have children, so she can't be involved. So they said, who's gonna be the president now? And I'm looking on the ground going, oh God. And they said, Kathy, you can do it. So, and but I said, if I am, I'm gonna move it to San Andreas. And so as a result, we have a once a month storytelling, open telling, and we have a fine core of people that come, and it's really cool.
And where do you meet?
At the Triggy Art Gallery.
On Main Street.
On Main Street in San
Right
Andreas.
next to the donut shop.
Will that continue there at that site?
Yeah, as far as I know.
As long as we can.
Yes, yeah, John is considered selling his art gallery. And I said, well, he said I could have it as long as he's there. I said, fantastic. So, and it's a perfect little venue. It's very much like how perfect yours was, only the advertisement just was,
It was perfect. It was a nice
it
week.
was good.
We had the Manzanita Arts Emporium and had that going for 5 years, and then COVID hit, and we had to shut down all volunteers and the dangers of it. And
You can't have an art gallery.
getting
yeah,
with
an art gallery with
no,
people.
no customers.
He's getting a lot of good ladies from Calaveras County telling stories, which is really kind of nice too. I mean, a lot of people live in the area and tell stories about themselves.
Right, and people can
It's kinda
come
nice.
and mainly tell personal stories. And I'm trying to encourage them to learn fairy tales as well, because it's always good to have a fairy tale in your pocket. So, but they're not resisting, but they just like,
It takes some time. Yeah,
they just, a fairy tale?
yeah. You got to work on that.
Yeah, you gotta memorize.
Yeah,
Claudia does a job of that, but everybody else,
Well, she's done it for years. And
yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
her forte.
yeah. In fact, we're going to, Claudia and I, we'll be going to Jackson, the Children's Day they have there in a couple of weeks, and all day we'll be telling stories to children.
So do you go up to the fair and tell stories? And
No.
so going back to living in the area, we all came around probably the 80s, 70s area. We've been here, 40 years at least?
Well, we've only been here 20.
20? Uh-oh, the young ones on the
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're the new ones
You're
on the
the
line.
ones on the line. But you were here coming up sooner than.
Oh,
earlier.
yeah, we've been, 10 years before that, we're.
Then we're going to
driving.
Chauncey. I had shows in Chauncey, and we'd stay in
We'd stayed in Jackson.
Jackson several times, and we didn't stay in San Andreas at all.
We visited it though. I have,
We
in my
drove
journal,
through
I
it.
have us going to the museum and visiting
Mm.
Well,
Calaveras.
San Andreas proper, we're the county seat, but we're not a city. We don't get the notoriety of a city and the services of a city like Angels Camp. But we have a government center, we have our hospital, we have all these wonderful things, but it doesn't have a character, maybe like West Point or, it's not,
Murphy's.
or Murphy's
Yeah.
or Angels
Mhm.
Camp with
Yeah.
the old buildings. But our Main Street has kind of been revitalized a little bit. But what was it like? You were talking about the library earlier, and the library used to be on Main Street.
Yes.
And is that where you had the activities? Because the kids would walk from the school,
No,
no,
we were. I didn't start till they were in the new library.
in the new library.
But when we first came up here, we went to the library downtown,
Mhm.
and when the new one was built, we didn't really automatically go over there. We were used to this little downtown library that, just one room, little tiny kids section up here, but we weren't volunteers. We just, it was just a place to go. And
Is that Shirley Hubbard involved in that?
was she's once they made a well, I can't say for sure. You better talk to her, but she's been the treasurer for 30 years or something, and I don't know if that's about the time they started the Friends, and so maybe she started with that. But
Yeah, the Friends of the Library they have many different organizations, right? They have the different offshoots in each community.
there's there's the, we call the big friends, I guess,
Yeah.
you know, that's the county library friends. And then, about the time Kathy and I came into volunteering, there wasn't a group in San Andreas, and there was some consideration, oh, well, they don't really need one. Well, the big friends group didn't ever take responsibility to do anything locally, you know, for, you know, story times or anything like that. And so that's what you know, well, they need their own group to, you know, have a Halloween party or a Christmas party or some of these activities. And so that's how that got started. And Kathy was the first president.
No,
Yeah, I think you were.
no,
No?
no.
Okay.
Who was it? It wasn't me. It wasn't until 2000.
Because you were one of them that was fighting to get it, you know.
No.
Oh, bad memory.
I think it was, I think I was president, I was president for 5 years, but I think it was from 2014. And we were volunteering with Lynn from 2007 or 6. So it was
Well,
like, I can't remember who the,
Yeah, it's hard to remember, and I think
Yeah, yeah.
we met at Shirley's house
Mhm.
a couple of times. And then that's when we were doing the secret garden.
Yeah, that came a little later, yeah, yeah.
And then the group got smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And so now when I became president, I think it was like 8 people there. Now there's like 5.
Same people.
The same people,
Yeah.
you know.
That's what we're finding, you know, a lot of people volunteering back, you know, in years past, where now people are struggling to make a living, or they're very, very busy. And a lot of these community organizations are looking for volunteers, but it's very difficult. It's the same
Mhm.
group. Now we're aging out and getting
Yeah.
retired, and
Yeah.
so, but what was it like? We had treats. I remember the one store here.
Yeah, well,
Right,
when
and-
I came, there was both Treats and
Oh,
Winklers.
Winkler's.
Yes,
Mhm.
but then Treats blew up in the middle of the night.
Right.
And so we didn't have a store, so it went to Winkler's.
And where was Winkler's then?
Winkler's was, I think it's, right next to the donut shop.
Okay.
It was in that, there's a name of that building.
Yeah, that's the name.
The probation or somebody's, the county group was in there for a while. I don't know if they're still in there. But then when Treats built their big market, then Winkler's, everybody kind of came over there.
Mhm.
And so Winkler's, somebody told me kind of the reason that they stopped. Maybe it was just that, you know, this was 2 old families, longtime
Right.
families, that both had markets. But,
But there were other stores. I remember a dress shop. There were shoes early on, and a lot of these services have kind of gone away. And some of the smaller shops and stores,
Yeah.
you know, and then of course they built the Walmart over there in Jackson, and people tend to be pulled out to the big box stores in that era in the early 2000s.
well, and then there's a number of markets over that way. It's just a bigger area.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, but we have a donut shop.
That's right.
And a Subway,
And Subway and
and pizza.
some restaurants.
Yeah, it's one thing that you really need.
Well, remember Black Bart with Don Cuneo,
Oh.
and they used to have the Fridays all you can eat seafood, and
And Sunday morning brunch was
Oh,
excellent.
and you had linens on the table. You could invite your relatives up to visit and have a nice dinner.
Yeah.
This is what
I
Well,
still,
we have to find
we
elsewhere.
still have the building there. I'm just keep hoping that somebody will come
Right.
and
Yeah.
do that again.
Mm-hmm.
Make her,
Now, one thing moving from the Bay Area to here was we like on the first days, oh, we need to get milk. So it was like 7 o'clock. So we went and to get milk, and it was closed.
Yeah.
We thought, what? It's closed? And it was really awkward. It was a blue town or something. It closed down at 5 o'clock or 6. I couldn't believe it. I was laughing my head off over that. I said, "Oh my God, I gotta get used to
Even
this."
Murphy's, it's kind of eerie after 7 o'clock. There isn't much going on, in the winter time or whatever, and it's eerie.
Mm.
Our towns close up really after 5, pretty much.
You know,
6
and
o'clock maybe.
we're not used to shopping like, we've got 5 so-called 7-Eleven stores in our town. But you don't think if you're out of milk to go there. I mean, it just doesn't quite gel.
Yeah.
You
Because
know?
it matches how many traffic lights we have in the entire county. It's what, 5 max?
I don't know.
If you include the party.
Because
Like-
I've never shopped for food at one of these,
Treats. Just we all go to treats.
Right.
gas station shops.
But it's a social thing when you go to our local stores like Senders and Treats. You see people
Oh, I love it.
all the time and you say hello. And you're in the produce section and you can't get out of there for a long time. If you see 3 people, in the store, you're there for at least an hour.
That was another thing. Remember, we go to the post office, and we're used to going to the post office, get your thing, and leaving. We'd be behind these people when they come to the counter. We go, "Oh, hi, Ed. How you doing? How's your horse?" And they would talk, and I'm behind them going, "Okay, what are you doing?" They took forever. And even at the grocery store, they go, "Oh, hi, how's your child there?" And they're talking about preschool. I'm going, "I have milk here, it's going to get warm." No, it was the strangest thing. Everybody knows people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's weird because I've always been raised with,
But I grew up in New Jersey, which is basically the same.
The city,
In
the
a
city's
small
got-
town where you just had a little teeny grocery store to shop at. If you wanted to go, you had to go as far as like Jackson to do any grocery shopping in the
But-
town that I grew up in.
Yeah, but living in like Bay Area or Los Angeles or what,
Yeah.
there's so many people you don't, go to the store and it's so abstract and you don't know anybody really. You try to go to the one checker that she's there that day that because you can at least know a face, a familiar face, but other than that,
no.
yeah.
It's a different world, but it's a lot more pleasant.
Yes.
It's just, did take getting used to.
So what about your encounters with nature? That's part of why a lot of people come up here. They love
yeah.
the nature.
Oh,
They
yeah,
love
we like-
nature experiences.
Rattlesnakes,
Next to our house is basically a run where
green
we've had the foxes, we've had the
bobcats.
bobcats, the turkeys, the skunks, the possums. They all seem to enjoy our little area. And I have a little camera I set up. So we get all kinds of pictures of deer and you name it,
Yeah, the deer in our
Have
yard.
you ever had any encounters that were?
Oh, I was gardening, picked up a rock, and there was a rattlesnake underneath it. That was an encounter. Jeez, tons. We had rattlesnakes in our front yard. We've had them in our garden, on our porch,
So what do you do? Do
side of the house.
you kill them, or some
Yeah,
people
we do.
don't
I
believe?
screamed for Phil. Phil Castellucci, our neighbor.
Uh-huh.
Phil, there's a snake. And he comes over and with all he manages.
And we wind up killing them,
Yeah.
So.
Well, I did behead a baby rattler with a rock once. I was very shocked. Yeah, I was walking up and he was pretty close, but not that close. And I just picked up a rock and I just thought I was going to scare it. And I threw it and it sliced off its head. To this day, I wonder how that ever happened. But it was a weird event.
No, I just take a sledgehammer.
Yeah, we got cats that we take and walk every once in a while, so we
Yeah,
worry
Yeah, we
a
were.
lot
We
about
had dogs
that.
too for 12 years that go running around. In fact, Thule I let him out the door. I said, "Wait a minute, Thule." There goes the rattlesnake just ran. I go, "Get in here." Phil, Paul was gone. He was traveling.
Mhm.
And so I was by myself with Phil.
Yeah.
There's a rattlesnake here.
It could be a little jarring, but
No, I don't. I grew up with snakes. And snakes were always, when I always hiked back in Jersey, I'd be the one that almost stepped on a snake all the time.
So-
for some reason or another.
So what did you guys do for entertainment?
Here?
Back in the day.
We used to sit outside
Oh,
and
yeah.
eat and just look at the stars.
Oh, yeah,
That
just
was-
enjoy the outdoor.
Couldn't believe the
area,
stars.
You know,
Yeah,
We
blue
like that.
lights.
you know, with big trees and stuff like that.
And Big Trees is a kind of an anchor for our county. Is a beautiful place to go, spiritual place, a
Yeah.
powerful place to visit.
Any visitors from out of town, just go to Big Tree.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know, because it's inspiring. It's a very, you know, you could almost wish you could have a cabin there.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, it's just
Yeah.
that kind
No, I
of a
don't.
place.
No.
No,
No, I like sand. I like being in the barrier of the oak woodland
yeah,
and the pines.
yeah. Or
I don't want to be in the pines because I like the sky. So I want to see it, but not trees in the way. So being in the oak woodland, it's just like fabulous. And I like being on a hill. I discovered I like a view. And I would, if I was to move, I'd be really sad if I didn't have a view.
Do you have a view of your place, or are you amongst all the trees, or where?
Well, kind of a combination. Though, outside my front door is a hill. There's a driveway, and then there's a hill here. But and then there's then the neighbors take a way high road to get back to their properties, which actually splits my property in half. It's on my deed.
the road used to go by your house, right?
Yes, it used to go by my house, and the guy that we bought from, I said I can always hear his wife saying, "I don't like those people coming so close to our front door."
I mean, they were just like great.
And so it's an old man named Galen Core that lived here many, many years ago, and they hired him to take a road and go up. It's on the other side of my second house. That was the original part of it was the original out there. And you go up and back, and then like my neighbor Ann, and then the Elliots that used to live on the creek and did so much with the area. They all had to cross this, but you know, it doesn't cause me any trouble, and it's one lane. I don't know what happens when people meet. I mean, I mean, even from me to town, that 1 mile is very narrow, and there's lots of pullouts, but there's lots of places where you either have to back up or.
Yeah, there are a lot of roads like that up here.
Yeah,
It's surprising, and you go.
Was the bridge there at all over Murray Creek all the time? The one up
well, it
there?
was there in the 70s. There was that, and
It's never been replaced. Still the same.
no, it was repaired 6 years ago when we had 60 inches of rain. The water came up from the creek and went over the bridge, the last
Oh,
bridge that's
wow.
by my house,
Wow.
and took out the cement, some of the cement, and one of my neighbors said, "You're not going to be able to go with your sedan," and then we found out we could, but it's county maintained road, so it took them 4 months to come out, but the bridge itself was sturdy, but then the asphalt had gone off, so they came back and put the new asphalt and cleaned up a big hole that had been made.
You know, I was talking about, entertaining things. We have the fair, which everybody seems to go to. Not everybody, but a lot of people like to take the families. Do you remember Black Bart Days
Oh,
in San Andreas?
yeah,
That was a bit, now we have a Cajun Fest.
that's very similar, yeah.
Uh-huh. But where they close off the main street and have vendors and sausages and food and music,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the library has their used book sale normally. They used to. Like
Yeah, it is, yeah, yeah,
they'd have a parade.
you know.
Wow.
The museum does puts on a few different things, don't they? Every once in a while, the
Yeah.
museum.
Yeah, what
They had that singing. What was that called?
They did a Christmas thing, yeah.
Yeah. But they had the one where people sang. I don't remember. Yeah, they do funny songs and stuff like that.
yeah, I remember the museum used to do a lot of programs. historical societies.
Yeah, the
very
Historical
active.
Society.
Every-
Yeah.
I think every quarter they have a meeting
Oh, yeah, we're.
and the speakers,
members.
yeah, members, yeah,
Yeah, they
Yeah,
have
or
the
two.
museums,
yeah.
you know, in Angel and in,
We used to put on programs too as our Manzanita group up in the courthouse, the old courthouse.
Oh, yeah.
And then Glenn Lawson and Ted Laskin, who was on our group, both were in our writers group. Ted was the acting judge, and then Glenn was Black Bart. And
Right.
he acted out Black Bart for years.
It was scary. He would go in the jail cell and you walked in there and then he would sit up. I'm sure he scared a bunch of people.
And he would walk down Main Street with his rifle. I mean, right out broad daylight, and nobody cares, and he's dressed all in black. And
Yeah, he was great. It was great. Yeah, there was lots of good activities.
Yeah.
The
Metropolitan is active again
Mhm.
the last few years, and it used to be a going concern as well.
there used
Yeah.
to be a movie theater.
That's
I
right,
heard.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was. That's what the Quonset hut was bought here for in the 50s, was for movies.
Mhm.
And you know,
The Quonset hut.
you know,
It's literally,
after the wartime, those things were a dime a dozen, and they were, you could get them and have an instant building. And
Where did you get that building? How did
It comes in parts.
well,
It comes
it's a Quonset hut, so it's kind of like a greenhouse kind of thing. You come, and that's why it was a instant building in the military. Those Quonset huts were,
And-
because they were.
You can take them apart and move them, all kinds of
and
different.
now it's the Fourth Wall
Well,
Entertainment.
yeah, it's wonderful.
And they've
Yeah.
been really going strong, and I think they've got a Shakespeare experience
That-
coming up.
They're just starting rehearsals.
Great little plays, and people should come out and see that kind of thing. Theaters, it's nice to see live theater. Sonora, they closed down stage 3
Yeah.
because of the facility was
Mhm.
taken over, but live theater.
That was a good
Murphy's
theater.
Creek. We've got Murphy's Creek Theater up in Murphy's. Live theater is still alive here.
Mhm.
You don't see that in cities as much, where you have small theater companies.
Yeah, it
like
was
that.
it was struggling here a while ago, and the director just put out the word, and people said, "We need this. Don't go away." And so people started underwriting it, and there was some other fundraisers, and it's just I would have been lost because I don't get to go to a lot out of town anymore. And so I
One movie theater in our county, the Angels Theater, the Historic Theater, and that people go to that
well,
quite a
and
bit.
that is those young men have really kept that
Yeah.
going and done a good job keeping that up. That's really good too.
So for entertainment, fishing and outdoors, we take the kids fishing to Hogan or to the creeks or streams.
In our park, parks around the county, and I just went by the Angels Camp Park, which has got beautiful new play equipment.
Oh, yeah, they did.
The trees were removed. They said that they were old and dangerous, but there's no shade there.
Yeah.
And I wonder if they're gonna make any kind of.
I don't- Do you remember when we were kids how hot the equipment used to be in like blazing
Oh,
sun?
yeah.
Remember the slide?
They were all metal. I mean,
Do you remember that? And you burn your, legs, the back of your legs going down that
You
slide.
have a little piece of cardboard.
You'd have to
that
have
you-
cardboard or Ziploc or something, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that's dangerous.
But I haven't got to stop, but I noticed the parking lot's all different and everything. I think it's getting really close to opening again. That part, but then the area has got plans for an amphitheater and other activities gonna be. You look at that, it's hard to see where it is because I think they're gonna have to level some. It's hillside.
Right.
But it's
It seems like it's going farther back into that valley.
yeah, well, that's what the extra property was,
Oh, really?
and it was just sitting, but it just kind of lumpy, the hill's hilly, and
I'm assuming there's gonna be hiking trails through there.
yeah,
Maybe there has been. I just.
you probably,
With-
Yeah.
But-
We used to have a razzle dazzle. Kids would go get ice cream and a sandwich. Remember that? still have the pizza place. It's always been there. It's been there for years and years and years.
Where?
So,
Where?
by the bank, by Umpqua Bank.
Yeah, the pizza.
Oh, here's it. Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So we've got some things, but you know, you know, entertainment in town. What do kids do? Where do people go? There's
Yeah.
Goonies Saloon, you know.
You have to be 21 to get inside.
No, they have lunches and things,
Yeah,
but
but they said that you
You
can't bring your children
you
in.
can't bring your children and see. So really, I did go in one of the rooms there. I looked at the floors and there was blood stains from probably 100 years old. And yeah. Anyway, and so there's some fights in that. I remember one time the docent at the museum, this is a funny story, but she says, "Oh, I had an interesting thing happen to me this weekend." I said, "What was that?" "Oh, somebody landed in jail in our little courtyard because they have the old jail there." And I said, "Well, what happened?" She said, "Well, I don't know. I just opened it up and there's this guy sleeping it off. And I called law enforcement and they said, 'Oh, that's the guy we're looking for.'" So he had brandished a knife and the Goonies Saloon, which may have not been called Goonies at the time, as I was
Red
reading
Brick.
report, Red Brick, and had run out the back. And there's like a big concrete parking lot. And he thought he was just going to climb over the fence. Well, there's a big drop down there. And so he was so inebriated or something, and he fell into the jail. And so that was very convenient for, catching the guy.
Well, there's a bed in there. Yeah, I volunteered at the museum for many years, and it was really fun. And I still love it. And, if I go in there with somebody, I can still give them a lot of spiel because if somebody came in to visit, I would stick my head in the office. I'm taking these people upstairs. I'm not going to sit down
It's a
here.
beautiful little.
I'm not going to just sit, collect their money and just sit at the desk. I'm going to go up with them, and because just some of the pictures upstairs, you point out, see this big picture? That's right down there. That's.
Slowly Montlock took that courthouse and reconstructed it. And
Oh, that's
so
wonderful.
You've got a reconstructed old courthouse right inside the building there.
Yeah, it's.
And there used to be a stagecoach down in the lobby.
Yeah.
There used to be a stagecoach years and years ago
Yeah, I guess that was gone by the time I.
Yeah, and so they built the, carriage house. They have the carriage house for
Yeah.
up in Angels Museum for all the carriages. If you've not seen that,
Oh, that's wonderful.
they have some new things in the way they have it
Yeah,
laid out.
I haven't been for. a
It's
while. I'd like to-
fantastic.
yeah,
You have to
yeah.
go. It's beautifully done.
Do you remember when they brought the people that were checking for ghosts?
Yes.
They brought them in to set up all the equipment
In the museum?
in the museum and the jail and stuff to check, see if there are any.
And
ghosts. They had a whole
there.
program on it at the museum.
Well, what was the result? Did they find them?
No.
They got to go to the Leger Hotel.
No,
Oh.
they did sort of find.
Sort of
something,
find?
but yeah,
I remember that.
yeah.
A reading?
Donna Chance was there when they were filming, and she got the willies.
Oh.
Well, the old library on Main Street.
Yeah.
They're saying that there was an old librarian ghost there.
Oh, really?
They said definitely a ghost there next to the archives.
Well, and then the gals from at the Met, they told
Oh,
the story. They
yeah,
told the
right.
story
Ghost
when
story.
the students
Yeah.
were doing an overnight. They had been rehearsing late. They just planned an overnight, and they heard some voices and
Pounding.
Yeah.
Very loud pounding.
And they
couldn't
had
figure
no
out what
idea.
that was.
Our writers used to meet there where the museum store is with the books.
Oh,
We used to meet in that room.
That's
And
where I met you, come to think of it.
yeah,
At that writing.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And I'd stay late, put the chairs away and everything. And on the other side of the wall was where the Arts Council gallery is now. And there was nobody there at 10:30 at night. There was not even a custodian. No one was there. And there was knocking on the door adjoining the next building,
yeah.
the next section of the building. And I'm thinking, and like a low voice. And I thought, no, I'm not going to stay here by myself. That was creepy. And the rattling, it was like he was rattling, trying to get to my side to say hello. But I wasn't interested in conversing here, with this guy. Or I thought it was a male because it was like a low male kind of voice.
What did he say?
It was like a mumbling sound, and I don't know what it was saying.
Oh.
But he probably was saying, "Get me out of here!" But the old courthouse has a couple of those randomly.
I'm sure.
I didn't find any. Not
It
really.
goes back
Not
a long
really.
time.
Yeah,
They found iffies.
yeah, just kind of, yeah, that's right, not too sure, but,
Yeah.
they needed more, I guess, time and stuff.
Yeah.
It was an interesting, they played a couple little things, right? They played some,
It's on video on it.
video or a recording or something they heard at the noises thing. Yeah.
Well, there's a bottom part. There's a basement down in there.
There
is? Oh, yeah. And they had records down there and that in the adjoining building, and it was flooding.
Oh,
And so they told me they had to throw out a lot of moldy,
Oh,
I mean, old documents and
Wow.
ledgers and diaries and journals. It was all decimated by the flooding and the mold.
I wonder if it's underneath that whole area,
Yeah.
even when where the
Yeah.
archives are, whether
Yeah.
there's kind of a.
And I'm sure,
basement.
the underground tunnels that they have in most of these little towns. So, and San Andreas is riddled with these. I know my kids told me, I don't know if I should put this on video, but in the high school, kids in the auto shop would lower themselves down. There was like a plate that covered it up, and there was a mining tunnel, and they would lower themselves down like during lunch and just go see as far as they could go, and then they come back. And
Serious? At the high school?
at the high school.
Ah.
Underneath it, this whole town is riddled, and that's what happened with the treat store. Was underneath, I guess there was enough methane gas coming up, leaching up, and there was a spark in one of the, I guess the refrigeration units, and it blew up. But the methane comes up from those underground tunnels. Yeah, we're riddled with tunnels.
well, it's a mining town.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I never,
Never.
I thought about that.
yeah, the thought never entered my
Yeah,
mind.
you look on a map, there were mines
Mhm.
all over the place in this
Yeah,
area.
and the tunnels.
Everywhere they could dig, there's looking for something.
Wow, interesting,
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, if any other memorable activities or hobbies or things that you remember doing when you came up here in the old days,
The old days.
we called it the old days.
Going up to Murphy. Murphy's changed a lot since I've been here too.
Yeah.
Murphy's was nothing.
No, it was just
It
a
was
little
just
town. I had nothing.
nothing. Then all of a sudden it burst into this very hippie.
Well, they
You
built
know.
this whole section down.
Well, the Couts family is really
Oh,
responsible for a lot of
it's-
that.
It's amazing what they've done out there.
Yeah.
It's just amazing how much they, the,
It's changed. Yeah.
besides the growth of, but the building and everything. I think it has to be one of the top wineries in the state.
It's
you
like
know?
it's like a Napa.
Yeah,
It's a Napa of the mountains or something.
It feels that
I
way.
mean,
It
how
feels
many
very
others have got, like, the big organ down there, I mean, it's just
Yeah,
amazing.
San Andreas needs to do something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Also the things to do is all of the cave you can
That's
go in
right.
San Andreas.
California Caverns up
Yeah.
up at
Yeah, we
Mountain
were
Ranch.
held down the Moaning Caverns.
Oh, that
when
was
they
great.
still had it. That was interesting.
It was fun.
That was.
Is
yeah,
that
they don't
not
have
open
it
anymore, or they don't
don't have-
repel?
They don't have the repelling anymore.
No.
I think Calaveras, is it California Caverns
Yeah,
by Mountain Ranch, they're
Yeah.
revitalizing it. My daughter used to work there.
Yeah.
She was a,
it has a lake
Teenager.
inside.
We were there last.
she said
just
they
last
went all the way down through the,
Did you go in the
Different
lake?
shafts.
Well, there was a lot of water, but I don't consider it, like they said,
Yeah,
it
well-
does much.
They said the lake was there only in the wet season.
That's
It
right,
dries up
but
any other
it's,
time.
it seems like it was something about, that was the wettest cave. Cause you almost should wear boots any time of year. It's
Yeah, it
just,
was
you're
pretty sloppy.
you're
It was
really
slippery.
walking.
Yeah.
she was a tour guide and she was able to do some, you know, very
Spelunking.
near spelunking, very narrow shafts.
Yeah.
I saw her pop out of a rock, this hole in the rock.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Also, that was,
Oh,
yeah.
God, I was gonna ask you if she went down that.
She did.
Oh,
Yeah, because, yeah.
I can't even think
No,
claustrophobically
if they do
wise.
to go down that, no, I don't want to go down that.
Yeah, the guide we had did that.
Yes.
Slim lady
Yeah.
just pops down the hole
Yeah.
and disappears.
Yeah,
Like,
like-
She said that as many as 12 people could be down this hole. I go, well, good for them.
I'll watch.
we're standing here.
Oh, that was eerie.
Yeah, and there's some stories, you know, but there's a whole cave culture amongst people who work the caves and were involved with the caves. It's kind of a secret thing, but she hasn't told me very much because I don't know if they're sworn to secrecy or what it is, but there's some stories to be told. It's a whole subculture of this life, you know, the cave life.
Well,
That's fascinating.
Like
they're
more
really
like
interesting.
spelunking.
I haven't been in one in a long
Not
time,
just
but I
that.
always like
Not just
doing
that,
it.
but
Living?
things that they found down there that they can't talk about, archaeological finds that they can't talk about, but
Huh.
it, you know, we don't really want too many people, the government especially going in there and taking over, and so it's still private endeavors and private property, and so
Well,
it could
Yeah,
be
I'm sorry.
historically really important.
okay. Well, if you want to go down, just ask me and I'll take
Oh,
you.
yeah, oh,
to
we'll go on a
Calaveras
cave,
Tavern. The
I,
other ones would be too hard for you, but Calaveras Tavern, you'd be okay.
Yeah, oh, it's it's not too
Yeah,
hard of a,
Yeah, it's a straight,
it's beautiful.
yeah.
which one is, which one is it, where's it, what's that one?
That's
On
what
Cave
happened.
City.
Oh, Cave
Cave
City,
City,
oh,
really.
okay, yeah, that's the one that's really muddy, you really need boots.
Yeah,
In the
but
summer,
Middle
middle
summer.
summer.
Yeah,
No,
middle of summer.
middle
Yeah,
summer, and
that's
it's so cool. It's even like 55 degrees. So it's so hot outside with 110 degrees, and you go in there and you just I remember taking
Yeah.
a couple of tours just so I can cool off.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
we always, you know, in Arizona, we would go through in the caves out of Tucson, and so one of them is like, it's 70 degrees all year long,
Yeah.
or something, the
Yeah.
temperature doesn't change from.
Very even.
Yeah, and we went in what's called the Grand Canyon Caves, which are 40 miles from the Grand Canyon. And
They're outside of Kingston.
because there's the air comes from the Grand Canyon underground to it, but they got named the Grand Canyon, which is, it's, you know, and it's real, and you go down on an elevator
Mhm.
way down. In fact, there's a bunch underneath that they've never explored. That, you know, I mean, it's been a long time since I've been there, so they maybe have done more now to it, but
I'm wondering what caverns are still not discovered up
Yeah.
here.
Oh, yeah, you can bet there's,
There are places where water, like on our property, water disappears. You know,
Yeah.
when heavy rains. I'm saying, you know, that's not just gopher holes. You know, I just have this gut level feeling that we've got a cavern, but I
Yeah.
don't know.
One of the strangest things I found living here when I came here originally was the cement factory, that water,
Oh,
that
yeah.
lake thing. And that just amazes me. And they said it's like 100 feet deep. And I said, what were they doing that had made 100 feet? And why isn't the water, you know, rising up and that's there? And they said it's like chemically, you know, you're not supposed to go in it, but I bet people have dove in that thing.
Probably. But that's another thing. I remember the concrete, the cement plant was operating, that we had a lumber mill in Wallace that was operating. I'd take some of the school children there with the families and we, you know, see how we went to the cement plant and then just to see how things operate. And we've lost a lot of these things. And then I think in the 80s, there was a big movement afoot. They were going to bring nuclear, or not nuclear waste, but waste from Silicon Valley to use to burn in the cement plant.
oh,
And there was a big uprising about it from some people, and there were death threats and things like that
Yeah.
leveled at the marina. the owners of the marina because they were against it. They didn't want the Hogan Dam,
No,
possibly an accident polluting that dam.
right.
And so a lot of people were up in arms. There were signs, there were protests, there were letters written to the newspaper and all of that, and they did stop it. I guess we caused so much trouble. First they thought, oh, here's this little backwoods community. They're not going to, do
No,
anything.
yeah.
And this company pulled out. I guess the spotlight was put on the operation and people fought against it. Thank goodness, we do not need that here. We're a recreational area.
I still don't know what's gonna happen to that lake, the water. I mean, what's going on with that?
Yeah.
I have no idea, and I don't think anybody,
Just gonna be an eyesore until it.
well, it's pretty. It's a pretty
Is
color.
it on Full Station Road?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Hmm.
That's another strange place, Pull Station Road.
It's kind of a mysterious
It
little
is.
area, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, but there's so many cute little valleys here, just,
Yeah, the Toyon is an industrial zoned area, but there's not a lot of industry.
to be honest,
I mean, we're
Yeah.
sleeper. There's a little bit, but it's a sleeper area up here. Maybe we'd like to keep it that way,
That's kind of the reason I like being
Yeah.
here and coming here. It's just for the years that we knew it before we moved here, it always just stayed.
Yeah.
And I kinda-
Not much progress, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the fun of
We
living
have-
here.
We don't do box store.
Maybe it has to-
Pride ourselves, right?
Maybe it has to do with the Calaveras, where the place of the skull.
Oh.
Is that maybe that makes a negative connotation?
No, it has to do with not being incorporated. If you're incorporated, big box stores just run right in because I think I don't know, I can't be sure, but taxes. or
We don't
something.
even have a McDonald's here. Angels Camp does, but
It came close and
Yeah.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I didn't want it, just
No.
because I thought that's not that great of food, and then high school kids would be hanging out there and,
yeah.
it's.
I don't think the high school kids have any place to go.
That's
true.
a big problem.
That is
Yeah.
true.
I think that a Mormon church has a lot of, a very active youth community, which is good
Church
for the
youth
kids.
communities, that's really a
Other than
good
that,
outlet for kids, but we're finding that, I'm hearing anyway, that a lot of people are not going to the youth groups. And
Oh.
because the rules are too stringent and
No.
they're kind of turned off by that, but I'd like to see more activities for kids and youth.
you know what I'd like to,
Yeah.
oh, go ahead.
What's that?
I interrupted, go ahead.
No, the youth centers and things, have tried, but it's that funding and trying to keep it going, and, somebody has to be able to be, the director, and they need a living, and so those things are hard too.
I envision, like, I know that Kmart shut down there in Jackson, but something up here, I envision a place, ping pong tables, maybe some games that are kind of educational, video games, but nothing, but an educational center with games and kind of old fashioned games, even kids learning to play chess,
Yeah.
things like that, where they have a place to go and it's clean, it's innocent, and,
It's trying to find an organization to back
Pickleball,
that,
yeah.
you've gotta have a
you
little,
do.
Well, that's
You know-
one thing about Metropolitan. They have a kids theater. And in fact, Cindy just talked to us about that. They're going to have yearly members annual ticket
For
finers
the
for the
fourth wall entertainment.
fourth wall entertainment. Now they're going to have a separate. What are they going to call? I can't
What-
remember the name of it.
The kids
Specifically
thing,
for the
yeah.
kids.
well, it's, I can't think of that terminology either.
Trip.
Youth theater or
The youth
Yeah,
theater.
it's youth theater, but it's a nonprofit. It's got its own nonprofit
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
These
Which
separate
is
tickets.
different. The main theater doesn't have that.
Right.
And it seems to work better not with that, but with the kids. So now
Mhm.
then, hopefully get a good amount of vendors, people that'll,
Which I think
monthly
is-
donate or whatever.
Well, everyone. It has been a wonderful conversation, and I'm so glad you were able to come. And
No, it's
chit-chat.
enjoyable talking.
Thanks for
Lois especially.
Thanks for coming in,
She's
Kathy.
got to be the sweetest lady everybody knows.
Yeah.
Yes, sweet.
Lois, you turned 90.
90.
I don't like that term, turn.
We love you, Lois.
You'll always be young in our heart.
Always,
I'm-
always.
I'm just thankful that I still can share my music and people want me to come and because otherwise,
Can they hear you play?
where can they hear me play?
Aren't you Sundays at the church?
Well, Shirley having me, we play just a 10-minute prelude of organ and piano, and then I play at the it's not Avalon anymore now, it's Golden and San Andreas, the rest home. I've been there for 20 some years, every Thursday.
What about
play-
the senior center?
And then I play at the senior center when I'm there. When I stop by, then I usually I'll play. But
So, and you might catch her on YouTube. She plays
Yeah.
around the 4th of July, all those wonderful patriotic songs.
well,
Christmas
Pussy
songs.
sets the music, and I try to remember to do it a little more often. But it's
Look her up on YouTube, Lois Conklin,
oh,
Conklin.
oh,
Are you have a channel?
not on YouTube. I was trying to learn how to record there, but I just do it on Facebook.
Oh, on
Yeah.
Facebook.
It's on
Okay, so
Facebook.
look for her on
I've
Facebook.
seen you a couple times.
Yeah.
I just did. I was on a little podcast and I was practicing some songs or trying to figure out. I told him I wanted to do a song, so I ended up just singing "This Little Light of Mine," with kind of an old country song, and because you could make up words, "This little light of mine," all around the volunteer center. You could,
Right.
you just wherever you are, you can do that. But
Well, we'll have to wrap it up
Okay.
and until next time, and hopefully we'll think of some more things we can talk about the old days up in Calaveras County.
okay.
It's,
Well, thank you.
it's wonderful living here.
Yeah, it's a good life.
Yeah.
It's a good life.